Good afternoon, everyone. It's Mr. Montgomery. Yesterday, we were talking about adding to two-digit numbers, but we got to use a 100 chart to make things a little bit easier. So if we had something like what's on the screen here, like 5 plus 20 equals, I don't know. So we would go back and check a 100 chart like this one, and we would find 5 because this number had some parts in the ones house, right? So this is the one that we made do all the jumps. And the 5 would make 2 jumps because there's 2 sets of 10s, right? And every time we go down a row, that is adding 10 to it. So go 5, 15, 25. That's 2 jumps, so we stop. And we know our answer is 25. And then we'd be able to go back and say, oh, well, now we know that 5 plus 20 is 25. And then that was it. Today we're going to do the same thing, but we're not going to use the 100 chart this time. What we can use this time is some tens rods and ones cubes. So if you would like to use tens rods and ones cubes, hit the space bar on the Chromebook, and I will get you some tens rods ones cubes if there's not any in front of you already. Okay? Okay, so today, like I said, we are going to use tens rods or ones cubes. And for number one, I thought we would, not make it too crazy, and we're going to stick with some lower numbers. So we're going to add 15. So we have 15 on this side plus 10. And over here, we just have one 10 rod, so we know we have 10. Okay? All we're going to do, especially if you have those 10 rods right in front of you and you're holding them, guess all we're doing? We are taking these 2 rods and we put them next to each other, and we just kind of count by tens and then throw those ones in. That's it. Or you can look at this number sentence down here, and all you're doing is really focusing on the tens. We have 110 here, 110 here, and the 5, we're not even going to touch it. We're going to leave it alone, and it's going to stay the same. All we're going to do is add these tens house numbers. That's it. So if I was going to redraw this, right, I would just take this guy, bring him on over here, and now we have the total, right? And now we can actually count out the total using the tens, rods, and ones cubes. So let's do it right now. So we're going to start with our tens, just like we do during math calendar, right? 10, 20. Now we finish our tens, we're going to count by ones. So 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So now we know that 15 plus 10 is 25. Or if, say, we're super duper good at math, and maybe we don't want to use the ones cubes for, because we're that good, which may be the case, it happens, which is fine if you don't like using the 10 rods and ones cubes. If you want to just try to push yourself a little bit and test yourself a little bit more, you could say, okay, well, this 10 and this 10 make 2. So I'll have 2 in the tens house. And 5 and 0 is, well, 5. So the 5 is going to stay the same. Or like yesterday, if we rewrote it, we could say 15 plus 10, right? And I'm going to get my little separating line. 5 and 0 is 5. And 1 and 1 is 2. Either way, you get 25. These are just all different ways we could think about adding these numbers. We're going to get the same answer either way. Okay? But you use what's easiest for you. Okay? That's all. I'm going to show you all these different ways, and whatever works for you, stick with it, and that's fine. And to show you another way, like we were using yesterday, so 10 and 15. So we're going to find 15. And 10 has just one 10, so it's one jump. Boop. It brings us right down to 25. So even with our 100 chart, we checked our work and we got the same answer. Okay, so let's make the next one just a little bit tougher. Instead, let's use the number 24. And I'll make this one a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it 20. So 24 plus 20. Looks a little scarier, but we're just doing the same exact thing as before. So first thing we're going to do is draw our 10 rods and 1s cubes. So the 24 I'm going to draw on that side, and the 20 I'm just going to draw right above here. Okay, so I drew my 10 rods and 1s cubes for 24. So I have 2 10 rods and 4 1s cubes. And I wrote down that it was 24 right below it so we don't forget. And then on this side, I have 2 10 rods to make 20. And I wrote the number 20 so I don't forget. So you can do the same thing with the 10 rods and 1s cubes that you have. On your paper, you can set up the one side with 24, 2 rods, 4 1s. And on the other side, you can have just the 2 rods. Now, if we want to use these 10 rods and 1s cubes to help us figure out what is 24 plus 20, we're just going to combine them because we're adding. Adding is combining. So this is the easiest thing we can do right here. We're just going to take this 20 and we're going to shift it on over to that side of the page. And that's it. So go ahead, take those 2 rods, and you're going to shift them over to this side. Okay, and now that I shifted my 20, my 2 rods over to this side, I can now count them together to see what my total is. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. So it's 44. And what we're doing is adding the tens houses together. So 2 plus 2 is 4. It stays in the tens house. And then that 4 in the ones house, it's not going to change. And that's all we're really doing. Let's do another one together for number 3. Okay, now for this next one, we're going to add 33 plus 10. So on this side, you can have 3 tens rods and 3 1s cubes. Then on this side, we can just have 1 10 rod. So, let's see. I'll write down the numbers so I don't forget about it. 33. This is just 10. And if I'm going to add them, well, I'm just going to combine them together. That's all. So I'm going to take this 10 rod. Oh, it's not writing. Take this 10 rod and drag them on over here. And that's all we're going to do for it. Now we're just going to count it all together. Ready? 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43. So it looked a little scary because we had 33 to start with for our one really big number, and we just added 10 to it. and that gave us 43. And remember, if you're one of those math wizards, you just add the tens houses together and keep the ones right here. It's going to stay the same because there's nothing added to. So 3 plus 1 is 4, so that 4 goes there. And then the 3 in the ones house is just going to keep it company. All right, let's do one more together, number 4, and let's think of an even tougher one to do. Okay, so for number 4, we're going to add 45 and 20. So go ahead and write those numbers down, 45 plus 20. And on this side, I drew some very quick 10 rods of ones cubes. So I have 4 10 rods and 5 ones cubes for 45. And then over here, I just have 2 10 rods for 20. So I'll give you a quick second to get that set up if you need to get it set up on your paper with your 10 rods and ones cubes. All right. Now, if we want to figure out what the total is, we're just going to combine all the 10 rods together. So we're going to take this. It's going to come over here. Not the prettiest 10 rod, but that's okay. I'm not going to bother drawing all the lines in it. So you just take these and shift them on over, and now we can just count them all together, right? So it would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. So 45 plus 20 is 65. Remember, we're just adding the tens houses together. That's all we're really doing. So you'll see if we add 4 and 2, we get 6. And then the 5 just stays the same. And if I wanted to write out the problem up here, just like I did yesterday. So let me show you that real quick. And just like I was showing you yesterday, you could even write out the problem a different way. Just write out top and bottom. And this way you can see all the ones in the same column. And the 4 and the 2, or they're the 10s, right? They're in the same column. And then we just add them together. 5 plus 0 is 5. And then 4 plus 2 is 6. And we still get 65. That's the same thing that's right here. That's it. Okay, now let's open up and check out the inside of our packets. I give you guys another couple seconds to open up to the inside page. All right. Ooh. So it says write each number sentence. Okay, so they kind of have the right sign put in for us and everything. We just got to put down the right numbers. And then we got to figure out the total. So for number 1, I'm just going to go through this real quick, and then you guys can try number 2 on your own. I looked at this for a little bit, and I thought about what would be the easiest way to do a problem with the way that they're showing us. So we know that we have 14, so we can trace number 14, right? And then we know we have 20 because there's 2 10 rods. We can count by tens, right? 10, 20. So we definitely have 20 right here for our second number. But how are we going to figure it out, and know what the total is? So what I was thinking is we're going to count on from the 10 of this number. Okay, we're just going to count up the tens. Ready? And we're going to ignore the 4 for now. So 10, Then we go over here, 20, 30. We can write down the 3. And then we have to think, oh man, how many 1s do we have? Just 4, so we can add in that 4. I'm going to actually do number 2 with you instead. I want to make sure that we really understand how to solve a problem that looks like this, because it's different than the ones that we were doing on the front of the page. So I want to make sure we all really understand this. Okay, so the first number here that's going to go in this first line is 42. So we can write the number 42. And then our second number is going, well, we have to figure it out because he only gives 10 rods. So we can count by tens. 10, 20, 30. So we know that there's 30, so we can write that down. But we have to figure out what the total is. So let's count all the tens together first, because that's kind of the easiest way. So we're going to count on from 4 or 40. Okay? So let's try counting on by 40 by tens. So 40, then go over here, 50, 60, 70. Let's do that again. Now I'm ignoring that 2. I'm just looking at the tens house. So there's 4 tens. So I could either count on by tens, so 40, 50, 60, 70, or I could just count the amount of tens, right? So I can count on by tens or count how many tens I have altogether. So here I have 4 tens. And then over here I have 3 tens. And now what's 4 plus 3? It's 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I can just add that 2 over. Or if you're one of the friends that really like that other way of writing these problems down, you can do that too. We can absolutely do that. We could even say, write it top and bottom and say 42 plus 30 I'm going to get a different color here to really show things. And I could say, what is 2 plus 0? Well, that's just a silly simple addition problem. That's just 2, right? And then 4 plus 3 is 7. We still get 72 either way. So you can count on by tens. Just count the total number of tens, right? And find out what big number do those tens make together. Or you can write it, rearrange the addition problem to top and bottom, and then add the ones and then the tens. So I'm kind of happy I just did number 2 with you, because I feel like number 3 is a really good starter problem to do things on your own. Because we have 30 and then just have one little 10 rod. That's it. So try number 3 on your own. I'll give you guys a minute and then we'll go over it together. All right, let's start going over it together. So we have two different numbers. So first we have to make our addition sentence. So our first number is 31. And our second number is, well, it's 110 rod, so we're just going to write 10. And now we got to figure out how to add these together the best way, well, not the best way, the way it's easiest for you. So we're going to kind of do this a whole bunch of different ways. So we could count on from 30 because we have a 3 in the tens place. And we're just going to count on by tens. So 30, 40, stop. So it's 40, and then we just have a 1 in the ones place. So 41. Or we can think about how many tens we have. We have 3 tens here and 1 10 here. 3 plus 1 is 4 with a 1 in the ones place. Still gets 41. Or, let's see. We gotta be careful when I'm erasing this. Okay, or we could rewrite the problem in a way that is easier for you. Or, whichever way you think is easiest to think about. So if we want to rewrite this addition sentence, we could say 31 plus 10 and then we put up our little separating line. 1 plus 0 is 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. And we still get 41. Either way, however you want to do it, whatever's easiest for you is fine. Go ahead, try number 4 on your own this time, and then we will go over it together. I'll give you guys a quick minute. All right, I think that was enough time. Let's go over it together. So our first number to go on this line is going to be 27. And then our second number, well, we got to count this out because it gives quite a bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of 10, and 5 sets of 10 makes 50. And now we got to figure out the best way for you to figure this out, which means whichever way is easiest for you. So we could count on by the tens, say 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And then you add that other one in, it's 77. Or we could say, how many tens does this have? This has 2 tens. This has 5 tens. 2 sets of 10 and 5 sets of 10 makes 7 sets of 10. And then we just have a 7 in the ones place, so it still makes 77. Or we could rewrite it. We could rewrite it in a way that might look a little easier for us. Because personally, I'm not a huge fan of writing things from left to right. I never was as a kid, and I'm still not a huge fan of it. I always like writing my addition problems top to bottom. So we could say 27 plus 50. And then we get our little dividing line out to make sure we don't mix up any of our houses here. So 7 and 0 makes 7, and 2 plus 5 makes 7. And either way, you get 77. There's a whole bunch of different ways we can use. So go ahead and try to do the rest of the packet on your own. If you're really confused and you're thinking, you know what, I really need to see a couple more of these done to really understand it, come see me and the rest of the class on the carpet. We'll go through a couple more. If you're good to go back to your seat, do the rest on your own. Don't tell anyone the answers.